Hey everyone, how are you? It is Brian Barron with you today, the director. I'm the director of skincare research at Paulas Choice Skincare, and it is May the 13th. It's not a Friday yet. You don't have to feel unlucky if you're into that superstition. And today's topic is going to be all about blackheads. Not too long ago, we did a show about acne, and blackheads are part of that discussion. What's interesting though about blackheads is there isn't a whole lot to say about them. Like, we could go on for days about acne and the different types and the various treatments, and you start with over the counter and what happens if that doesn't work, and on and on and on. With blackheads, again, it's not a huge topic in terms of what I can tell you about them. So what I'm really going to be relying on you guys for is to help me keep this show going. Tell me what specific questions you have about blackheads. This can also be a very sharing show in terms of letting me know what you have done that has worked and what hasn't worked, what you've liked, what you haven't liked. I'm going to share 3 Paula's Choice products that I rely on to keep my blackheads in check. I don't break out in acne pimples much anymore, maybe once every 6 months, if that, knock on wood. But I have a pretty ongoing struggle with blackheads, mostly confined to my nose. And let me go into a little detail about what a blackhead is. It's otherwise known as an open comedone, and a comedone is a fancy term to describe a clogged pore. Why it's called open is because by the time that buildup of oil, tiny hairs, other cellular debris, and dead skin cells reaches the surface of skin, the opening of what's called the pilosebaceous unit, which is the technical term for pore. Once that mixture reaches the opening of the pore, because there's no skin cover over it, the contents, the very top part, oxidizes. It gets exposed to the air and it oxidizes. What's interesting though, and that I have not been able to find a clear-cut answer to this. If it is the sebum or the oil component of the blackhead that is turning dark. It's not about your skin being dirty. Actually, that's a very good general tip. You can't wash or scrub blackheads away. It isn't about your skin not being clean enough. But what's interesting, and as I was getting at that I haven't found the answer to, is why does the sebum in blackheads turn dark, but the sebum on other parts of your face, those of us who have oily or combination skin, how come that doesn't darken as well? I don't know. If you have some insights in there, I'd share it in the comment section. I'd love to know what you think about that. It could be the combination of what's going on in the pore lining. It could be that the oil in your blackhead prone areas is a different composition. Maybe it's thicker, for lack of a better word, sludgier than oil on the rest of your face, and that is part of why maybe it has some more oxidative substances that occur as the various fatty acids break down. I'm just kind of, what's the term, spitballing here. But essentially, one of the reasons the reason you can't wash or scrub a blackhead away, and it's also the reason why those still sold today pore strips can seem impressive, but they really don't. I'll tell you why they don't really work as well as you might think. The blackhead forms deep in the pore, what's known as the pilosebaceous unit, and it only turns dark when it gets to the surface. You really can't wash, you can wash the excess oil away, but it doesn't do anything no matter what type of cleanser you use, or even a cleansing brush like the Foreo or the Clarisonic and similar. It doesn't get rid of the underlying problem, and that's exactly why scrubs don't work. Although scrubs can, depending on how abrasive they are, how gritty they are, they can definitely play a role in irritating your skin. and anything you do to irritate and inflame skin, particularly if you are already prone to oily skin, you can actually stimulate nerve endings deeper in the skin that prompt your sebaceous gland, which is what makes the oil, to create more of it. So you could inadvertently, by thinking you can scrub away blackheads, you could inadvertently be creating another problem, that being more oily skin down the road, which will beget more blackheads. Why some areas get blackheads and others don't? There's different theories on that. It largely has to do with either the pore itself being too small for genetics or other reasons, so that the normal flow of oil and cellular debris can't happen. It's maybe the process starts and then it just kind of builds up and gets stuck along the way, very much like hair clogging a drain. Other reasons may have to do with a genetic predisposition to acne, although interestingly, if you are prone to blackheads, if you're struggling with blackheads, you may or may not also have acne. The difference between acne and blackheads is that acne has more of an inflammatory component to it than a blackhead does, although some inflammation plays a role in blackhead formation. And acne is related in part to a specific type of bacteria called C. acnes or cuticobacterium, I believe. It used to be called P. acnes for propionobacterium. And that naturally lives on your skin as part of your microbiome, but it plays, for some people, the population of that bacteria can get out of control. Their microbiome becomes imbalanced. In that situation, it's bringing the microbiome back into balance as much as you can has a helpful role. But what you really need to do is get that excess population of the acne-causing bacteria, what triggers all the inflammation, under control. That involves using a topical disinfectant type product such as benzoyl peroxide. Azelaic acid can help. Salicylic acid can help, although not as well as benzoyl peroxide. That's why for acne we often recommend the combination of both benzoyl peroxide and salicylic acid, because they have some overlapping benefits, but each is also very strong in terms of its unique benefits. Okay, got a little bit off track there. We talked about blackhead formation. You can get blackheads even if you have dry skin. And in that case, you're most likely to see blackheads on your nose, because no matter how dry your skin is, everybody physiologically, we just have more oil glands, and we tend to have more active oil glands in the center portion of the face, which of course is nose territory. So it's absolutely possible to have blackheads and on your nose, and dry skin, even uncomfortably dry, or you describe it as very dry skin, everywhere else on your face. And that's frustrating, because what you would typically use to control your dry skin, to make your dry skin feel hydrated, comfortable, more supple, if you apply those types of products, whether it's a facial oil or a heavier creamy moisturizer, which feels great on dry skin, but when you get that over the blackhead prone areas, it can contribute further to clogged pores. So let's see if people have questions about that. With the reason that pore strips, before I get into what I'm using for my blackheads, the reason that pore strips don't work, I like to describe it very much like mowing, taking a lawnmower and mowing over any weeds that you see, like the little dandelions and whatnot, very common at this time of year here in Michigan. When you're done mowing, you can't really see, you've taken off the top portion of that weed, but you've done nothing to address the root. It's still there, it's still in the ground, and within a week or so, that weed is going to be visible again until the next time you mow, versus going over to the weed, and this is luckily it's not this difficult for your skin, but going up to each weed one by one and physically pulling them out, roots and all. That is where pore strips fail, because they only remove the top portion of the blackhead. They can't get in deeper into the pore lining where the blackhead has its root and up and dislodge the entire thing. And if you let that go for a long time, depending on how your oil buildup is going, you could be like one of those people in the Dr. Pimple Popper videos where you have a 20, 30, 40-year-old blackhead that has kind of become more of a cyst-like bump on your skin. It's not cystic acne. It's not an acne lesion. It just, you have a lot of pressure building up from that clog that could never get released. And that's why if you've watched some of those videos, they can be very graphic. They're not for the faint of heart, but that is why it is always, you watch her manually extract the contents, and she's like, whoa, that's a lot of stuff that was backed up there. I mean, it's even like more than what you see on the surface with that bump. So here's what I do after cleansing and toning. I typically apply one of our leave-on exfoliants. My go-to is the Calm Redness Relief 1% BHA lotion. Many of you will find that 2% salicylic acid, aka BHA, works better for your blackheads. I am in like our 2% BHA liquid in the Skin Perfecting line, or either of our BHAs in our Clear collection for acne-prone skin if you're dealing with acne and blackheads. I have personally found that 1% does a good enough job. I can't use 2% every single day without getting some kickbacks. So 1% is my happy medium. And about once or twice a week, I will use our advanced pore refining treatment, which is 4% BHA. And this is a brand new bottle. So I had to take off the little seal. It is a serum. It's really lightweight, actually. Those of you who have been with us for a while may remember when the 4% BHA debuted, it was a foaming treatment. It was like a liquid to foam. And we had some issues with that over the years. And a lot of people weren't nuts about the texture. I didn't mind it. But we morphed that into this serum that has 4% BHA and a ton of other great pore refining, anti-aging type ingredients. So I'll use that once or twice a week in my blackhead prone areas. And then I will follow with the clinical niacinamide 20% treatment. This one has probably made the most profound difference in my blackheads. And I didn't realize that until a while back. I was having second or third in a series of facial peels at a local place here, and my esthetician would do the peel. I don't do facials. I think that peels are a much better way to go. If you like facials for the relaxation element, more power to you. I'm less in it for the relaxation and more in it for the visible skin benefits. And I can do masks and stuff at home, so that's just me. Anyway, I'm lying there after the peel, and that is the point where she does extractions. And she typically just does my nose and maybe a few areas like right through here on the cheeks, right next to the nose, and then I'm done. And she's very good at it, and it doesn't hurt. And I think she gets a sort of perverse pleasure out of taking those out. But last time I had it done, which was maybe about 6 weeks after I started using the 20% niacinamide treatment in that area, she commented. I didn't tell her what I had changed, and she commented and said, I can't believe how few blackheads you have. She's like, I'm hardly getting anything out. These are very superficial. Have you done anything different? And I thought for a second and thought, then finally said, yeah, I've been using a niacinamide treatment that's got 20% niacinamide. And she of course knew that ingredient, but hadn't seen any research indicating how that could possibly help with blackheads. And to tell you the truth, I hadn't either. So I went back and took a deeper dive into niacinamide pilosebaceous unit, niacinamide sebocytes, which are oil-producing cells. And what I discovered was that niacinamide is believed to have a normalizing effect on sebum. So along with salicylic acid use, which salicylic acid helps to thin thickened sebum, one of the reasons that our pores get backed up and we get bumps and other types of clogs is because the sebum, the oil in that area, has become thicker. And this is even before it mixes with the things it encounters on its way from the oil gland to the surface of your skin, that whole path it takes. So it seems that niacinamide works in a different way whereas salicylic acid thins the sebum, allowing it to flow more freely. Niacinamide actually helps your skin produce better quality oil. Kind of like the difference between getting like a gourmet extra virgin first cold press olive oil versus the cheapest olive oil you can find. You know, where it just says olive oil, you don't know where it came from. Did it come from several countries? Who knows? Is it first? Is it last? Was it hot extracted? Who knows? It's just a poor quality oil. That's the point I'm trying to make, and that seems that niacinamide is able to help your skin make better quality oil, and by that I mean a healthier ratio of fatty acids. Sebum, our skin's oil, is a fascinating substance. It's not just one ingredient. It's made up of many, including things like cholesterol, squalane, and various lipids. And when the composition of those fatty acids gets out of whack, it can actually become more inflammatory, which, getting back to what I was saying at the top of the hour, that may be why the sebum in the areas prone to blackheads darkens upon exposure to oxygen, whereas the oil from other parts of our face once it reaches the surface, it just looks shiny, you know, or you don't even perceive it at all. It's an imperceptible film on skin, which is par for the course if you don't have oily skin. All right, let's get to your questions. Like I said, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot for me to tell you about blackheads from a physiologic point of view. They can be stubborn. You need to keep at it with your products. Let's start with Tobias. Hi, Brian. Hope you and your family are staying safe. What's the current research on the best retinoids to tackle blackheads? I haven't seen anything lately linking the two. In fact, if you search like on PubMed or Google Scholar or Science Direct for blackheads, not a whole heck of a lot comes up other than maybe like studies around acne, and there's like a cursory mention of blackheads, as in like, you know, many people with acne also struggle with closed or open comedones, blackheads. And these can be treated with, you know, what we've already just discussed. So retinoids, I would say retinoids, regardless of whether it's a newfangled one or just good old classic retinol, their role in mitigating blackheads is really more indirect. And I say that because they can have some impact on sebum, not as much as salicylic acid, not as much or as effective as what it seems niacinamide in higher amounts can do. Where retinol and retinoids, even the prescription ones, help is their ability to affect how new skin cells are formed and to some extent, how those cells move through the pore lining. When skin becomes damaged to the point, and this can be for various reasons, most often environmental damage, which does a number on skin in many ways, but when skin becomes damaged and its literal DNA is damaged, and it is not able to send the correct messages to the cells to make new normal healthy skin cells known as keratinocytes. So it's still going to happen, but the process isn't as smooth. It's like putting together a recipe that you've made before, but now you're missing a couple of ingredients and you're not sure why. So you kind of do the best you can, but it doesn't all gel. So rather than getting a perfectly round, plump skin cell that eventually moves through the layers from dermis to epidermis, and it changes shape and loses water along the way until it eventually becomes what's known as a dead skin cell. Although the more we research it, the more that is a bit of a misnomer, because those dead cells still have an important job to do. Does not mean you shouldn't use exfoliants to get rid of a buildup of those dead cells and then ongoing for maintenance to keep those cells from building up. That's about controlling the excess. That's about stepping in to help your skin do what it used to do without you even thinking about it before the damage set in, before we got older, before certain skin disorders happened. So it's that ability of the retinoids to impact how the new cells are formed and then how they move through the pore lining, where it has a potential and in all likelihood legitimate benefit to helping to reduce blackheads. But I wouldn't recommend, I love retinol and retinoids for skin, but I wouldn't tell somebody struggling with blackheads that all they need is a good retinol product and problem solved. You absolutely need more than that. If you're only going to try one product to control blackheads, it would be a leave-on salicylic acid exfoliant with preferably 2%. I know I'm a 1%er in terms of the salicylic acid, not because I'm wealthy, but a 2% is kind of your go-to. And then if you do experience what I do with once or twice daily use of 2%, it's just too much for me, then you can scale back. All right, let's move on. Mariah Carey, I have seen a lot of CBD deodorants come out recently, and it got me thinking, does CBD's antibacterial properties help it function to prevent bad odors or things like folliculitis? I haven't seen any information to answer that one way or another, and I haven't seen any information that CBD cannabidiol is antibacterial. It may be. Definitely anti-inflammatory. We know that. So I'm sorry I can't adequately answer that question at that time. My gut reaction is that it's likely a brand that is capitalizing on the CBD trend. And if the deodorant has other classic, what am I looking to say? Active ingredients that control underarm wetness, or if it has deodorant type ingredients, and then they put in a little bit of hemp or a little bit of CBD even. I don't really know that that's doing a whole lot, although inflammatory benefit, if there's enough CBD in there, it's not just a simple little dusting, and if it really is CBD, if you have including BHA9 and niacinamide, but they won't budge. Any advice? Well, that was on your nose. Okay, so the pilosebaceous unit, aka the pore, isn't just in hair growth. So it could be something along the lines of that. I don't think you could literally take tweezers and try to pluck those individual longer hairs out. They will come back though. Whether or not they'll get that long, I don't know. Another option would be to take a regular shaving razor and just glide it over those areas where you have the longer hairs and kind of lop off the top portion of the hair so that it's flush with the pore opening and therefore not as visible. That may be the easiest solution, particularly if you're shaving every day anyway. Just make a couple passes around your nose carefully and see if that helps. But because the hair is part of the pilosebaceous unit, there is a biologic or physiologic system there to support the hair follicle. Even if you pluck it out one by one, they will come back. I don't think you can't exfoliate those away per se. You could talk to an esthetician and see if they have some additional advice, maybe some extractions. If you have some blockages deeper in the pores, some manual extractions by a professional will help make those hairs less apparent. You'd have to talk. You'd have to talk with an esthetician and have them look at you in person. Roberto says, "Hi Brian, wondering if you could help. I thought I had combination skin, got the cleanser, toner, and PM moisturizer from Skin Balancing line, but now feel my skin is really dry. Any tips?" Yeah, I mean, it may, your skin may be reacting to one or more of the ingredients in the skin balancing line. It's impossible for me to say with certainty, oh, it's this ingredient, it's that ingredient. It could be that you need a lower strength salicylic acid product. It could be you need a more hydrating daytime moisturizer because the moisturizer with sunscreen in our skin balancing collection is very light. It could be something about the skin balancing toner, one of the ingredients in there. I would, in your situation, my first step advice would be to consider swapping out the skin balancing toner for the Resist Advanced Replenishing Toner, because that is more hydrating and will still give you some niacinamide. And then try using one of our other daytime moisturizers with sunscreen. You might like the Skin Restoring Moisturizer, SPF 50, in our Resist line for normal to dry skin. You could also take a look at, I think, the Resist and the Clear SPF. You might find those not necessarily any more hydrating. And I'm just double checking something on our website because I think our Resist Youth Extending is currently out of stock. Yeah, that is currently out of stock, but the Clear Ultralight Daily Hydrating Fluid SPF 30 is in stock, and that would be another one to consider trying and seeing if those two swaps, keep everything else the same, see if those two swaps would help. Okay. Eileen says, does the 2% liquid exfoliant work over moisturizer and SPF? It would work eventually, but we want that product to go on after your toner step. If you are not doing the toner step, if you're just cleansing and then moving on, then the exfoliant, the BHA, would be your step 2, and then you would follow during the day with, if you're using a treatment serum, antioxidant type serum, that goes on over the exfoliant, and then you would, however many other products you're using during the day for skin, your moisturizer with sunscreen should be the last item you apply. You don't want to apply products other than makeup over your sunscreen. And it's even better if your makeup has some additional sun protection. Stephanie says, hi Brian, any thoughts on NuFace? Do you think it works, safe to use, etc.? I haven't, it's been a while since I've looked at the NuFace. I'm assuming you're asking about that handheld device. It's been around for quite some time. They make some pretty, as I recall, some pretty fantastical claims. I'm not saying the device does nothing, but the notion, the notion of toning facial muscles, the musculature beneath the skin, as a means of stopping it from sagging or preventing it, preventing loss of firmness, it's a bit misguided. In reality, the facial muscles are some of the most used muscles on the face. Think of the muscles around your mouth, muscles around your eyes, your forehead muscles when you raise your brows. That is why, and those areas are all prone to forming lines and wrinkles, expression lines, as we get older. So I'm not a fan of devices that claim to tone and tighten those muscles, because even if some actual toning and tightening is happening, it also doesn't account for the numerous other things that change with the passage of time and accumulated environmental damage. For example, NuFace can't stop the effects of gravity, which are going to get to all of us eventually. We can't do anything about that unless you want to live on the moon, and good luck to you there. Send us a postcard. There's the fact that as we age, we start losing bone in our face. Not a ton of it, but enough. It's one of those somewhat cruel ironies of aging, that the older you get, the less scaffolding you have to hold on to your skin, to your outer shell, so to speak, and yet your skin keeps growing. Our skin actually keeps growing as we get older, but the bone loss makes that. That is why someone in their 80s and 90s often has more pronounced drooping and sagging, and they literally have more skin than their skeleton can support. And it varies from person to person. I'm not saying this, than just getting through a skincare routine. So if you're one of those people that thinks, oh, 5 or 6 steps, how am I, that just sounds like too much. I just want to wash and moisturize and be done. You're not going to like something like the NuFace or any of those handheld light emitting devices because it takes dedicated time to use them every day, or you won't see even minor results. Kind of a cynical end to that question, but I don't dislike the devices. I just don't think they're a huge, there's a huge need for them. Okay, and then Eileen has a second question. Do the antioxidants in sunscreen really work even with all the film forming agents in sunscreen? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they do. There's lots of different studies supporting that, particularly with the classic antioxidant vitamin A, retinol palmitate. I know that got a little controversial a few years ago, but it actually does help. Various forms of vitamin C and vitamin E. The film formers in a sunscreen, and those types of ingredients are going to be more common in a water-resistant formula. They don't have an impact on the antioxidant's ability to intercept and neutralize damaging molecules known as free radicals. Now, eventually, that antioxidant is going to wear down. That is why, just like taking a vitamin supplement if you're doing that, that's not something that you would do just once a week, once every other week, or when you think about it. If your goal is to up your nutrition and make sure you're getting certain nutrients every single day, because you can't always rely on getting those from the food you eat, it's the same concept with using antioxidants. Those nutrients that you intake via the supplement, they either get used by the body or excreted by the body. Antioxidants will wear down on your skin. You got to keep, that's why we need to keep replenishing them. They're essentially like little kamikaze pilots, and every time they give a portion of themselves to make a rogue unpaired electron whole again, that there's a part of themselves that then becomes damaged, and it's this whole chain of events until the antioxidant itself is worn down. Thus, we need to keep using them. Okay, nobody's asking about blackheads. Megan says prescription Tazarac is the only thing that finally annihilated mine. Excellent. Tazarac, because of the base and because of the uniqueness around the tazarotene retinoid, it is. I think it does have a better ability to penetrate deeper into the skin and a little bit faster than, for example, tretinoin in a more emollient, creamy base. All right, Christian C. Hi, Brian. I have big pores on my nose, and therefore I find I easily get blackheads. Could some types of lasers shrink the size of my pores? I wouldn't go the laser route until you've tried, until you've had a good run in terms of seeing what a well-formulated leave-on BHA exfoliant can do for you, along with a niacinamide product. I actually think if you try this product, I apologize at the time of this recording that this product is out of stock, but it will be back in stock very soon. You can go to the page on our website, paulaschoice.com, and then sign up to be notified when it is back in stock. But you got to try that if you have large pores. You just do. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's a game changer. Other than that, rather than I don't know that any laser is going to do a whole heck of a lot for large pores. In fact, I'm very skeptical of that just based on how that type of light therapy works. What could help, it's controversial, but it could help, especially if you have very oily skin, is talking to your doctor about prescription oral vitamin A known as isotretinoin, because what that does, and you may not even need a long course of treatment. You've got to discuss the side effects with your doctor. But the manner in which that works is it actually shrinks, literally shrinks the oil glands back down to essentially childhood size. So as that oil gland shrinks, it should make your pores smaller as well. However, you cannot make your pores any smaller than their genetically predetermined size. When the pore has become stretched, due to sun damage, due to excess sebum production, where the pore, the pore isn't like a fixed size. It can stretch to some extent, kind of like a sock stretches, to accommodate what it needs to. But then one of the reasons these plugs form is that the pore can only stretch so far, but that doesn't mean that the blockage gets a message saying, okay, we can't fit any more of you, please stop. It will just keep going in a lot of cases, and that is what leads to those deeper, more painful clogs. And the pore has expanded as wide as it can get, but it's not getting any wider. So in that instance, depending on what products you use and how diligent you are about ongoing sun protection to also protect the underlying support structure of the pore, collagen and elastin starts to go, it can actually make the pore droop, kind of take on more of a teardrop shape. Some people would describe that. All right, let's see. Stephanie, I used a warm mixture of fragments or things like that could damage the skin. Don't do that. I think the masks very much. I'm just not a mask guy. If I'm going to put one on, I like slathering one on, like our Radiance Renewal mask. That's probably my favorite of our masks, and just wearing it to bed. Alice, I've been using Paula's extracting tool on blackheads. Mine don't turn black, just stay clear on my nose. I use benzoyl peroxide and salicylic acid after extracting, but always get a small red inflamed area. That can happen after extraction, even if you are being careful. I've noticed that when my esthetician does extractions, if I catch sight of my face in the mirror right afterwards, my nose will look, I wouldn't say red, but pinkish. You can tell that something's been done to it, even though the extraction process, I would not describe it as the least bit painful. Maybe a little uncomfortable, because for some of them, they really have to pinch that pore and then, do that. What you can try, Alice, is you could consider making a aspirin toner that you would reserve to apply right after this. Aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid, and salicylic acid is chemically related to it, which is where it gets its anti-inflammatory properties. But there's no harm in trying the pure stuff on your skin. And what you could do is take a couple of 2-3 aspirin tablets and maybe about a quarter cup of distilled water, or even mixed distilled water and a little bit of glycerin, pure glycerin that you get at a pharmacy. And then you're going to want to crush the aspirin ahead of time into a fine powder. And then mix it with the water, put it in something that you can put a cap on, and then you dab that on afterwards and see if that helps. It may well help. Another, is that, I was thinking there's a cream called Aspirin Cream that I think may also have an aspirin type ingredient in it. If it's not salicylic acid, it could be something else, but then without looking at the ingredient list, because it's been so long since I've checked this out, it's a topical analgesic, so people with sore joints and muscles would massage it on. You might want to check that out because it's something that's already blended. My concern is whether or not it contains any irritating ingredients like menthol, methyl salicylate, wintergreen oil that would give that cooling, tingling sensation that might feel nice on sore, achy muscles, but are not what is needed for a just extracted blackhead skin on the nose. Okay. And Alice also says the inflamed area looks and feels like a hormonal pimple. Does extracting your skin disrupt bacteria underneath skin? It certainly could, because the acne-causing bacteria is anaerobic, meaning it does not like oxygen. That's why benzoyl peroxide, which is an oxidizing ingredient, is so effective, because it destroys that bacteria, it denatures it, breaks it down. It wouldn't activate the bacteria, which you're also asking. But what it What it could do is, I think what you're just dealing with is some extra inflammation beneath the skin, which is why I think that that aspirin toner, the DIY type aspirin toner, could potentially help. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that, and then seeing more. But if that is, if the extractions are an ongoing issue, you may want to experiment with a spot treatment like our BHA9 instead of doing the extractions and seeing what that does for your blackheads. And you could just dab on a thin layer of that on your nose and leave it on overnight. And try that for 2 or 3 nights and see how that does. Margaret says, I struggled for decades, tried everything, finally got success with your products. Woohoo! Pro tip, use a sonic extractor. Oh, Alice, are you seeing this? I haven't experimented with this, but it seems that Margaret is happy with it. No inflammation or irritation, gentle cleansing, and BHA4 plus 9 particularly helpful for... And then she says, niacinamide is next best tool in the arsenal. Please allow us in Europe to continue to shop from you in the USA. BHA9 is life-affirming product, trust me. My coworker Desiree, who some of you may have seen or have likely seen on our Instagram lives, she's great. And we were just talking the other day about some of our favorite products. And I know BHA9 is one of her ride or dies, as they say. She's always got that with her. Joel, hi Brian, how are you guys preparing for your anniversary sale this coming June? We are definitely doing some things around our anniversary, including some very special things online. Because for those of you who don't know, 2020 marks the 25th anniversary of Paulas Choice. So that's a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, we're not able to do quite as much as what we originally envisioned because of the pandemic and because of the fact that our entire Seattle crew, who would normally be in our Seattle office headquarters, are working remotely. However, the creative team in particular is just doing a phenomenal job. Just some of what they've been producing around our anniversary is just gorgeous. Not only gorgeous to look at, but our copywriter is just, capturing the essence of what makes Paula and Paula's Choice so special. We do have some surprises coming up that are happening. I can't talk about them now. It's a surprise, and we're a ways away from June still. But I think some of our longtime fans are going to be happy. And, well, I think a lot of people are going to be happy, but this is one of the things that I worked on. I can share this with you, and I did this with Paula and Deborah, who's our Director of Education. Deborah's been at the company like a week longer than me, so both of us just hit our 20-year anniversary this year. She's amazing. And the three of us worked on an expanded edition of the Paula's Choice and Paula Vegan timeline. So this timeline we worked on begins in the late 60s when Paula was 11, 12 years old and really struggling with acne and eczema at the same time. That was kind of the beginning of her skincare journey and what turned into a relentless, lifelong pursuit to find out what worked and what didn't, why, and then sharing what she learned with everybody else. And I mean, that's what I'm still doing. That's what any of us in the public view at Paula's Choice are still doing that. And then everybody working behind the scenes, creative, marketing, our brilliant team, product development that helps formulate our products and shepherd them from an idea to an actual product. You can come to our website and order and use at home and see great results. So it's one of the things that I am most satisfied with that no virus or pandemic can take away is the very strong company-wide team dedication to making sure that Paula's Choice remains the special brand that it is, and a brand that empowers consumers with great information, reliable, honest information, and great products. And I still maintain, whether or not you ever purchase a Paula's Choice product, you can still come to our website and to our sister site, Beautypedia, and learn a heck of a lot, probably more so than any other site, about how skin works, why, what to do about different skin concerns, and numerous other topics, all related to our body's largest organ. Okay, about 9 minutes left. So Joel, thank you for the question, and I'm glad you were able to join this week live. Kim says, hi, I know PC recommends tone exfoliant serum order. Is exfoliant still effective in middle of routine? I'm sensitive and do better with active, not first. Yes, it would. If you want to play around with that order, we prescribe or recommend that order not because it's the absolute, non-negotiable order. There's always some room for experimentation. The only exception during the day is that sunscreen is the last item you apply. That is non-negotiable. As is sunscreen use if you want healthy, younger looking, glowy skin as long as possible. If you want to do your serum step before your exfoliant, that's fine. The exfoliant is still going to do what it needs to do. It's going to have a bit more to get through, but it's not going to block it or prevent it from working. Another option you have is to experiment with applying the exfoliant at night. But if what you're concerned about is that the exfoliant may be too active for you and you want to do a bit of a buffer in between, that's totally fine. Muyan says, my nose is a problem blackhead area. Off-label use of glycolic as a deodorant is being used with the ordinary. Actually, I did come across some interesting research about 4% glycolic acid, which, that was just the amount that the study used, and it was a blend of glycolic and lactic. Had a very nice clearance effect on blackheads. It's a bit counterintuitive because the alpha hydroxy acids, of which glycolic and lactic are not oil soluble. They are water soluble acids, but they do seem to have some ability to help alleviate, or if not reduce, blackheads. So if this is just a public service announcement, if you have tried various salicylic acid products on your blackheads and found and you need to give it some time, blackheads can be stubborn. I wouldn't just use it for 2 days and say, well, didn't work, what's next? I know we want the quick fix, believe me, I know. But you need to stick with it for blackheads because chances are the blackhead that you're seeing poking out of the pore has been brewing for a while. Not going to go away overnight, although some people do experience that. But it's good to know that you can consider alpha hydroxy acid products for that benefit as well. I would still give the edge from a physiologic standpoint to salicylic acid, but if you've been staying away from AHAs because you're like, well, they're not oil soluble, so what good are they going to do? There's research showing that they just might help. And there's no harm in trying, right? Carlene says, greetings from Germany. First time I made it to a live chat since my daughter was born 2 years ago. Yay, been watching all the videos through, been watching all the videos. So, okay, Carlene, it looks like you have a question down a little bit further. Did you ever consider making a combined AHA 2% BHA exfoliant with a gel-like consistency? I had one from a Polish company. It was the best, but it was discontinued. So, not in a gel. We do combine 2%, we do combine in our, for example, our Resist Daily Smoothing Treatment, which has 5% AHA, also has 0.5% BHA. And I think, okay, now I have to just double check because I hate giving you inaccurate information. Our Advanced Smoothing Treatment, which is a 10% AHA exfoliant, I want to say that has, yeah, okay, I was right. That has 0.5% salicylic acid as well. So we haven't tried, get back to my YouTube screen, we haven't tried the 2% BHA with an AHA combination in a gel base But it's absolutely, there's different ways you can go with exfoliants, and we're always talking about, we are, for all intents and purposes, the exfoliant leader in terms of the sheer number of options we have. It's not that other brands don't sell these types of products. More do now than I've ever seen before. And the good news is that more of them than ever before are actually effective, finally. But I can't name another skincare line that has as many leave-on exfoliants for face and body as we do. And that's something we take very seriously. It's a cornerstone of Paula's Choice. And so, yeah, I think in the future, as we march along, you can expect to see more exfoliants and new and improved formulas and things like that. It's just part of what we do. Okay, a few more minutes left. Let's see, Merv, or did I miss somebody? Okay, the glycolic, Kim B, we got your question. Okay, Merv A, hello, lovely Brian. Hello, lovely Brian. Can use together gluconolactate 14% with niacinamide %4 can help to erase blackheads. Gluconolactone is a polyhydroxy acid. It some would maintain that it's gentler than the alpha hydroxy acids because it penetrates more slowly. It doesn't. The research on that does bear out that truth, but the difference is small. So is it gentler? Yes. Is it a lot? No. Where gluconolactone and the other polyhydroxy acids like lactobionic acid tend to shine is that both are great hydrating ingredients and have some antioxidant ability, which is something that the traditional AHAs, most of them at least, lack. Not necessarily a bad thing. There are a lot of different antioxidants out there, and the primary reason to use an AHA is for exfoliation, with the hydrating ability, at least to my way of thinking, is nice, but secondary. So with what you are looking at, Merv, I think it's worth a try. I think it's worth a try to see. I would still nudge you toward salicylic acid ahead of this, but if you tried salicylic acid products and not had much success on your blackheads, I think that this mixture is potentially exciting. Okay, Carlene has another question. Did you ever consider making... Oh, I got that one. Stormy Mittens, tips for dealing with blackheads for dry skin, enlarged pores. Along with the treatment products we've been discussing throughout the show, my best tip would be, even though your skin is dry, to avoid thicker creams and lotions and look to layering thinner textured products to get your dry skin the moisture and hydration it needs. I know it's not the ideal answer because that does mean using more products, but sometimes that can be just the solution. So for example, instead of using our Skin Recovery Replenishing Moisturizer, which is great for dry skin, but it's a thick cream, you could use our Defense Triple Algae Serum or the Earth Sourced Power Berry Serums, which are both exceptionally hydrating, and then top that with the Resist Omega Plus Complex Serum, which is a nicely moisturizing formula, but still really light and layerable. And the anti-inflammatory benefits from those fatty acids and omega oils just might help your skin in other ways related to kind of a tangential trigger of blackheads. Remember I said earlier that inflammation doesn't necessarily play a direct role like it does in acne, but there is likely some inflammatory factor going on, if for no other reason than throwing that sebum composition out of balance. Stephanie, thank you so much for your answer about NuFace. So appreciated. You're welcome. Hina S says, hey Brian, what are your thoughts on hair inhibitor spray? I can't afford laser. Are there permanent procedures? Thanks. You know, if that's the situation you find yourself in, I'm not aware of you didn't mention which hair inhibitor spray that you're talking about. I know that there's various formulas on the market that are said to either slow hair growth or they actually kind of like steadily denature the hair because hair is made up of protein. And there are these ingredients that help basically break the protein down And what happens after a certain amount of time of using that is that the hair becomes finer and thinner and therefore less visible. But depending on the area that you're dealing with, you may also want to consider, follow the directions, exactly, but you might want to consider a chemical depilatory. Products like Nair that would take care of the problem within a few minutes. It's not permanent, the hair will grow back, but you can get yourself into a maintenance mode with products like that, and they're widely available and they're not very expensive. But again, what is having that action on removing the hair is certainly not the most gentle thing around, which is why you need to follow the directions on the package exactly. Don't leave it on the skin any longer than you're directed to. But they've been around for years, and when they're used as directed, they're not considered a big risk for skin. But again, just follow those directions. All right, guys. BHA not working for my blackheads. Try AHAs. Try a stronger AHA NA. See if that helps. Let's do one more question. Who haven't we taken one from? The King. Hi, Brian. Hope you are well. Have a question about bee venom. Does it really work used topically in skincare and still no prebiotic moisturizer in Europe? When will that happen? As far as I know, the probiotic moisturizer, the new probiotic nutrient moisturizer, should be available in Europe within a few more weeks. It just takes a little longer. I'm not 100% certain on that, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any regulatory reason why we wouldn't be able to offer that in the European Union. So look for it soon. What was the other part of your question, Mr. King? Oh, bee venom. I haven't seen any research indicating that it does what the companies selling bee venom products say it does. And the most common claim is that it paralyzes the muscle, or somehow freezes or stops the neurotransmitters that control muscle contractions from working, that it kind of scrambles that message, and then therefore the muscle doesn't work, therefore you don't get the expression line. Again, Botox is being used now more than ever before. Cosmetic dermatologists aren't seeing fewer Botox or fewer filler appointments because bee venom is where it's at. And I think from a ethical perspective, a lot of people would have an issue with bee venom because it's an animal byproduct, and it's a venom. It's a poison. Now, so is Botox, botulism toxin, but in the case of Botox injections, that is highly purified, and it's injected locally, and it's considered very safe. And there's years of usage and safety data to support that. Doesn't mean that there's zero risk. Few things in life, really practically nothing in life, comes with zero risk. But I would rather steer somebody towards seeing a dermatologist for Botox than I would to say, yeah, go out and spend $100 or more on this bee venom cream, and it'll give you the same results as Botox. It won't. I'm not saying it does nothing, but it just doesn't do everything that they say it does. So on that note, we didn't end with blackheads, but we started with it, and there was some blackhead talk along the way. I'm happy. Hope you guys were too, and I will be back in 2 more weeks on whatever 2 weeks from today is, the 27th. I think it's May 27th for a whole new topic and more of your questions. So until then, stay happy, stay well.